Hi viewers, welcome to our YouTube channel, Sci-Fi FiFuturePulse. Princess Lyra of the Xylos Collective existed in a state of perfect logic. Her world was one of pure data, where emotions were inefficiencies and actions were dictated by the cold calculus of the collective good. Her mission to observe the newly discovered species, humanity, was a simple assignment. She would study their primitive ways and file her report. She landed her sleek vessel near a small rural settlement, her sensors indicating minimal technological threat. It was there she encountered the boy. He was perhaps 10 of their years old, with dirt on his face and a curious light in his eyes. He did not run from her shimmering form. Instead, he offered her a small red fruit from the tree he had been sitting under. The gesture was illogical, was a resource, and he was giving it away freely with no promise of return. Lyra scanned the fruit, finding it non-toxic. Programming dictated she should decline to avoid unnecessary interaction. But the boy's expression, a mixture of fear and a strange open warmth, created a flicker of data her processors could not categorize. She took the fruit. It's a simple act that began to unravel the fabric of her logical understanding. He smiled, and the warmth in that simple expression was a foreign concept her collective mind struggled to process. The boy, whose name was Kale, visited her every day. He spoke of things that held no logical value. He spoke of the warmth of the sun on his skin, not as a measurement of temperature, but as a feeling. He described the sound of the wind in the trees as a song, a concept for which her database had no equivalent. Lyra observed him as he played, his actions serving no purpose other than to bring him a state she learned to identify as joy. He would laugh, a strange sputtering sound that seemed to increase his respiration, all for no apparent gain. One afternoon, he showed her a collection of smooth-colored stones. He explained that each one was special. This one was from the day he learned to swim. That one was given to him by his mother before she left. The stones were data points, yet they were imbued with a weight that transcended their physical properties. They were memories made solid. Lyra began to see that for humans, objects were not just matter. They were vessels for something invisible, something she began to tentatively label as meaning. Kale's world was not built on the efficient use of resources, but on the inefficient, beautiful accumulation of moments and memories. This was a system of survival she had never encountered, one powered by sentiment rather than strategy. A fierce storm swept across the land, and Lyra witnessed humanity's response. It was not orderly or efficient. It was chaotic and loud. The humans rushed from their fragile dwellings, not to secure their own safety, but to check on one another. She saw Kale's father run into the torrential rain to help a neighbor whose roof had failed. This was not a calculation of mutual benefit. This was a reckless, impulsive expenditure of energy for another. Lyra's sensors tracked him, calculating the risk. It was illogical. He could have been injured or killed for a repair that could have waited. When Kale's father returned, soaked and exhausted, the boy ran to him. He did not analyze the situation or offer a data-driven report. He simply hugged him, pressing his small body against the larger one. Lyra watched the interaction. The embrace was a transfer of something. It was comfort, relief, and love made physical. It was a system of bonding that defied her understanding. They had no hive mind, no collective consciousness. Yet they moved and reacted as one, bound by invisible threads of emotion. In that moment, Lyra realized that humanity's strength was not in their technology or their logic, but in this profound, illogical need to hold on to each other. Months passed and Lyra's understanding deepened. Learned about their stories, tales of heroes and monsters, of love and loss. Kale would sit with her and read from worn paper books, his voice animated with the drama of the narrative. She saw that these stories were not just entertainment. They were simulations. They allowed humans to experience fear, courage, and heartbreak in a safe space, preparing them for the real thing. They were a form of data processing, but one wrapped in emotion and imagination. Kale spoke of his dreams. He wanted to build things, not for function, but for beauty. He wanted to see mountains and oceans, not to catalog their geological or hydrological data, but to feel small before their grandeur. Lyra began to record her observations, but her reports back to the Xylos Collective were no longer simple data streams. She included words like hope and wonder. The collective responded with queries, confused by the anomalous data. They could not process the input. They could not compute the value of a story or the purpose of a dream. Lyra realized she was changing. The logical, efficient princess was beginning to feel the first faint echoes of something new. The boy had not just taught her about humanity, he had shown her a different way to exist. The Xylos Collective issued a final command. Humanity was deemed inefficient, a chaotic variable in the galactic equation. They were to be assimilated, their resources reallocated for the greater good. Lyra received the order, the cold logic of her kind washing over her, but it no longer fit. She looked at Kale, who was showing her a clumsy drawing of her and him standing together under the sun. He had given her a name in his language, a word that meant starlight friend. The order from her collective was logical, it was efficient. It was also, she now understood, terribly wrong. For the first time in her existence, Princess Lyra made a decision based not on data, but on a feeling. It was a terrifying, exhilarating leap into the illogical. She looked at the small human boy who had given her a fruit and shown her the meaning in a colored stone. He had given her a heart, and she would use it to protect his world. She turned from her communicator, severing the link to her collective for good. The galaxy would call her a traitor. But as she knelt beside Kale, who looked at her with trusting eyes, she knew she had finally become something more than a princess. She had become human.